It's
Hey,
recording.
Ruth. Awesome. Cool. So I'll drop a link to the meeting notes and minutes in the chat one more time. So the agenda that I looked at for covering this week was just a follow-up on the burnout metrics conversation with Ruth and Matt G. So one or both of y'all could give an update on that. Then looking at the badging projects with the upcoming launch on September 14th. So it's just about 2 weeks away. So figured Matt Snell can give us an update on that side. And I see he's already got stuff going in the docs too, or in the meeting notes too. And then just to follow up on the open demographics meeting, assuming that if everything went well, that it happened this week. I saw there was
Nikki's on the call. Nikki's here.
Oh, hi, Nikki. I'm sorry. I had the view in a different position.
No, you're
Welcome.
good. Hello. Thanks for having me.
And then we have a couple highlights from State of the Source, which will be good to talk about. And then we'll talk about facilitating for next week. So maybe before we jump into the agenda, would it help if we just did like introductions of everyone for Nikki, since she's new to the call? Maybe just do like quick, like one sentence. Please. So I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll just do quick. Would quick introductions be helpful?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So we can just go in the order from top to down on the participants list. I'll call it out. Just so do name, pronouns, what if your interest in D&I metrics, and maybe a little bit, just a sentence about what you do. So I'll start. My name is Justin. I'm a open source technical advisor at the UNICEF Innovation Office. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm just really interested in exploring these really unexplored parts of open source projects through the lens of D&I metrics. So Matt G, you're next on my screen, and then Georg and Kevin, you're on deck.
Hi, I'm Matt, German Prey, if you care how to say the last name. He, him. I've been involved in this working group, the D&I working group, for a long time, and I've learned a lot. So it's great just to continue to learn, and I think a lot of my hopes are to really bring a lot of the D&I efforts that occur in this group and other groups into practice and help people improve the way that they work in communities.
Hey, my name is Georg Blink. Pronouns are he and him. I am the Director of Sales at Biturgia, a co-founder of the CHAOSS project and the Diversity Inclusion Working Group. And I'm just excited to have you all here.
Cool, thanks.
Hi, my name's Kevin Lombard. I'm a doctoral student at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. I've been with the CHAOSS project from the beginning. I'm incredibly interested in the D&I working group because I think that's a really critical issue in open source, and anything we can do to improve that issue would be wonderful. And he, him. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So next I have Astha, and then following with Amy and Elizabeth.
Hello everyone, I am Astha Bist. Pronouns are she and her, and I am a contributor to the D&I badging project. So my interest in the D&I metrics are a product of working on that project. So I like to see how they can be implemented and how people respond to analyzing things which are related to them.
Great, thanks. Amy, are you on the mic?
You know, I eat breakfast now. What am I doing?
Just a quick introduction, name, pronouns, your role or title, and then just why you're interested in the D&I metrics working group.
All right, besides being
Just
the
a short one sentence.
my name's Amy Marish. I'm known on IRCS Spots as part of the OpenStack community, where I am also on the board of directors, as well as being the chair of the diversity and inclusion working group. So that's where most of my interest comes from. I think I've been on and off part of this group, depending on schedule, since the very beginning. And my pronouns are she, her. Yeah, she, her.
Cool, thanks. So Amy, it was going to be a Liz Barron, and I saw Nicole just joined. Welcome. We're doing just quick rounds of introductions for some new folks who joined on the call. I'll drop a link to the meeting notes, or someone else can drop that into the chat for you in a minute. So Liz B, and then we'll have Errol, Matt, and then Nikki on deck.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I am the community manager here at CHAOSS, and I've been here a few months, but I've been in open source for like 20 years. So I've always been involved and always been concerned and always been passionate about increasing the diversity and inclusion and equity in open spaces. Since the beginning, I've been really passionate about that. So that's one reason why I'm especially interested in this working group. Not that I have favorites, because I don't. I'm the community manager. I love all the children the same, but I don't know, this one's got my heart. And also I do this part-time, and then I'm also a nature photographer as my other half. So something not tech. That's it. Oh, I am she, her.
Awesome, thanks. Errol?
I think it's me next. Yeah, sorry, I lost track. Hi, I'm Errol Fox. I am a designer in open source. I say that in a very kind of woo designer. There's not many of us around, I suppose. I work for the Open Food Network and do various other things in various other open source communities. The reason that I'm interested in what's going on here is I'm really interested in diversity, inclusion stuff in general, and less good at the metrics side of things. So actually I'm learning lots by being part of this working group. So I'm taking a lot of information, but I hope to and have contributed in the ways in which I'm able to. My pronouns are they, them, but I'm also pronoun agnostic, so I'm happy with she, her, or he, him as well.
Great, thanks. So was the order shifted on me in the participants list, so it was
I think I'm next.
Yep, go ahead.
That's what I remember, but hi, I'm Matt Snell. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a graduate assistant at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I want to say that because I look very Nebraska today. And I have a passion for diversity and inclusion, but I'm still pretty new to it, this part of open source. And I've been working with Asta and Tola, who's not here, but on the badging project. Really excited about that. And I really like onboarding too. That's all I have.
Great, thanks. And this time I put it in chat so I wouldn't forget. So next up, Nicole. Oh, and if for I don't know if you caught it. So for the introduction, just name, pronouns, your affiliation or role, and just a sentence or two about why you're interested in D&I metrics or why you're here.
Thanks, Justin. So my name is Nicole Huseman, pronoun she or her. And gosh, I've been involved in open source for a little over 10 years and involved in the CHAOSS project for, my gosh, at least a few years now, and always very deeply interested in diversity and inclusion in the tech industry and in the open source community. I started my work in the OpenStack community and in the Linux community, and am really value my time in the CHAOSS project.
Great, thanks. Nikki?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Nikki. I use they, them pronouns. I am a doctoral candidate at Arizona State writing a dissertation about data modeling and the way it reinforces white supremacy and transphobia. But before that, I was a working software engineer for 20 years, doing a lot of stuff in Drupal in particular, and I founded the Drupal Diversity and Inclusion Working Group. It's nice to see some familiar names, even though I haven't met some of you in person. And so I'm here. I had a great call with Matt and Georg about open demographics. And I don't know how I feel about metrics per se, but I also know that we live in a datafied society. And so I'm sort of navigating that tension between like data and surveillance, but also like making communities warm and welcoming and how to do that at scale. And so that's sort of where I'm at. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, thanks. Ruth, are you on mic or are you there?
Hi, everyone.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'm Ruth Ikega from Nigeria, pronouns she, her. Then I decided to join the D&I working group because I'm a Black and I want to be part of the working group that defines metrics for being diverse and inclusive. So I want to be part of that goal and see that it pushes forward. So that's why I joined the D&I working group. Yeah. Is there any other thing I should add?
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then so next, so I see got a couple more people also joined us. Hey, Sean. So we have Anita and Sean. We're just doing quick introductions since we had some new folks join the call for the first time. So just name, pronouns, affiliation, role, and just a sentence or two, or why you're interested in D&I metrics, why you're here. So Anita, are you on mic? It looks like you're on mute if you can hear us. If not, we can come back. Sean, not to put you on the spot, would you want to do a quick, introduction?
I'm going to try to remember all the things you asked for me to say. I'm Sean Goggins. They is my pronoun. I am a founding member of CHAOSS, member of the board. I'm active in several of the working groups. This one I come to when I can. It conflicts with another meeting. My commitment to the D&I working group is really just part of what comes out of being in one of the more balanced communities in computer science, which is the social computing research community, as well as one of the more unbalanced computer science departments in the country, where we have 93% male white people that compose our population. So my commitment to diversity and inclusion in open source stems from my desire to make a difference in the world.
Great. Awesome, Sean. Thanks. Glad to have you here today. Anita, maybe just give one more chance. Are you able to do a quick introduction?
Hello, everyone. I'm Anita Ehiman from Nigeria, and pronouns she. I have been into open source for a couple of years, just to know, but I actually found it very, very interesting, and I really want to get involved with the onboarding process, because a lot of persons have issues with it, including myself. I had a lot of issues getting into it. So yeah, I thought the onboarding process would be like the right spot for me to start. And then yeah, the D&I metrics is and I'd like to get involved with over time. I hope I learn more from this place though. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I think that was everyone. I don't think I missed anyone there. So I know most of us were already probably pretty familiar with each other, but I appreciate just helps to build some context, I think. So going back and looking at the agenda doc, if you need a link to that, it's in the Zoom chat. I figured we can go ahead and start really quick on an update with the project burnout metrics, which I didn't have any notes for that, but I figured Ruth or Matt G, one of you could maybe fill in a little bit there.
Ruth, you want to talk about it?
Okay, so sorry I wasn't in the last meeting. I had some network issues, but I looked at the Google Docs, so I made some, for the comments that were made, I added them up. Yeah, so then there's something else I wanted to add on the project burnout. So in GNOME, there's this project ongoing, Scalable Mentors. So what we are doing, we are trying to, okay, it's a sub of the project Scalable Onboarding. Yeah, so it's a sub of the project Scalable Onboarding. So Scalable Onboarding is about how to onboard newcomers, better onboard newcomers. So while in that project, we try to see how the different challenges newcomers encounter when they come into an open source project. So we had another subgroup for the project Scalable Mentors. So why I mentioned it now for project burnout is mentors in, from what we've gathered so far, mentors in open source projects also experience burnout, because you're getting contributors from all over the world with different skill sets, with different cultural backgrounds. So when assigned to a mentor, sometimes the questions or the hand-holding part for that contributor is usually very stressful, and they can experience burnout. So that's one thing I want to fit in this burnout part. Where do we fit in mentors that are experiencing burnout in open source projects? Because they are also to be taken care of. They are also to be taken care of under as relating burnout metrics. So we shouldn't also leave them out, because mentors actually do a lot. Yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to chip in. Or yeah, and I think there were some comments that were unresolved. I couldn't resolve them. I think one from Errol about if the terms were used globally. So yeah, I didn't quite understand that part, so I just left the comments unresolved. So if Errol could please expand on that.
Would it help just to talk through some of the data collection strategy notes, just to bring folks up to speed really quick? So maybe just for some quick context, we're looking at in the data collection strategies section, there's and there's another doc. Let me put a link to that in the Jitsi chat too. It's linked in the agenda, but I'll put that. Oh no, it's already there. Thanks, Georg. So it's the qualitative questions with their own interpretation of terms, and just looking at those 3 questions just to get like a more global context. If these are things that people will understand in the same way, or if they'll be perceived differently. Is there a way you want to try to guide the discussion on that, or just do we want to do some silent editing and do some like silent notes in the doc? What would be more helpful?
I'm kind of,
or Matchy.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if people have come across this term globally and have ever heard it talked about differently. Because if we can capture that, even just through discussion here, that would be awesome. So I think that's what Errol's question is, that burnout may be kind of a localized term, and maybe we could think about it more globally. I'm okay.
Yeah, so, oh, sorry, do you want me to
No,
jump?
no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, my initial suggestion for that section where we talk, the 2 words that I was thinking of are burnout and self-care. And I know that these are words that I hear quite often, Euro, UK, sort of location based, and I have a good hunch that they're used widely across like the Americas, but it is not something which I heard a lot, like used a lot in when I was doing some stuff in East Asia and some other places. So I just suggesting that if we are using the term burnout and self-care in questions, that maybe there needs to be a little place where that is explained, or like that if we know of any other words that other kind of cultures use to describe this, that we could use multiple different words that describe this.
I just put something in the chat, but actually right now Red Hat is having a how to prevent burnout meeting.
Right.
But you know, with the global aspect of Red Hat, and maybe it's because it's a US based company, I think the term is more universal now than it may have been in the past. And we might just be seeing it that way internally because, again, a US company sending out emails on how to prevent burnout and stuff. But we're seeing a lot of replies from all over the world, and they're okay, and they are using that terminology. So we might be okay using burnout and self-care, at least as a starting point. And then if we find out there are more terminology, we can adjust as we go.
And Errol
like
too.
Agreement.
Yeah, I was going to say in the description, like all the way at the top, it maybe a little bit more effort. We should put a little bit more effort in describing what it is. So we can just say, listen, we're going to be using this term, and here's what we mean by this, to just give it a little bit more context.
This might sound silly, but do you think there's a way for, or the description, we could pull out some of the, like, or just do like a bullet point list of some of the like identifiable like things that you could look at? As I think of like sites like online like HealthMD websites, and how they'll list, because in a way this is kind of a conversation about mental health too. Burnout's usually, if anything you'll read about burnout is usually pretty closely tied to psychology or mental health in some way too. So I just wonder if it'd be a helpful way to give people a really clear way. So like for me, I see this like in my default reaction is kind of like the wall of text can be a little intimidating, especially if, I imagine if you're not a native English speaker, it might be a little more challenging. And if we want to have a more global, I don't know, maybe there'd be a way we could simplify the text and make it a little easier for people to understand, and really focus on the things that you could personally relate to, instead of trying to find the right words. I don't know if I'm articulating that right or well at all, but.
So it looks like burnout is actually defined in psychology and occupational behavior literature. So it is considered a syndrome, apparently. So we could pull the definition from one of those sources.
I'd recommend not using the term burnout at all when it comes to asking people questions that they might not know what burnout is. Having situations, we could ask questions like tired, or kind of words that describe burnout without having to talk about the term itself. Because I think the problem isn't so much that it's not defined, as it is that it's not universally. It may or may not be universally used as something that people understand as burnout. So it's just we could just have a bunch of questions and have some kind of aggregation of those questions become what they think, what we might think they have when it comes to burnout.
Cool. So I think maybe just with respect to time, I think I'll try to get some of this down in the notes too. Maybe a good way to have a follow-up on this discussion is to open a new conversation on the D&I mailing list, just because I know there's also folks who can't make it to the call for whatever reason. So it would be good to try to pull in their perspectives too, if this is something that's interesting to them.
Okay, I pasted the link in chat. It's not really burnout, yes, but it's stress anxiety. But to be honest with you, the way they do it is what you see and what I feel. maybe we could do something similar to that. I thought that was really well organized and very clear. So if we do want to go something with, you know, pointing out what are parts of burnout, we could do something very similar. So I think it makes sense to people.
I think that would be, I really like the idea of trying to open this discussion up to get more feedback on that in ways that we could be maybe more inclusive or be clear in what we mean, especially when we're talking about these really broad topics that can sometimes be hard to put into a metric. So does anyone want to take an action? I can take it as a backup, but does anyone want to take an action to open just a mailing list thread on the D&I, CHAOSS D&I mailing list about how to talk about burnout for metric data collection?
I'd be happy for you to do it. No problem there. And then I've been jotting down a few notes too, just in terms of maybe how Ruth and I can try to capture these comments in this document as well. So
awesome. So I will make a note for me to follow up on.
And I was gonna just make one comment too for Nikki, just in terms of metrics. So in the CHAOSS project, we're really attentive to try to make sure that metrics don't become kind of weaponized or used in ways that can be extremely negative. So the way that we write them and try to talk about them in all working groups is, as a project, for example, with Project Burnout, are you thinking about project burnout within your project, and how are you doing that? So we never add value, or we never make value judgments on any of our metrics, just trying to indicate that these are probably things that you want to think about when it comes, in this case, with respect to D&I. And what the results that come from this metric, they have to be meaningful to you in context, and we would never provide our own interpretation of what's good or bad for a context that we don't understand.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Great, thanks. So we can do a follow-up next week on the burnout metrics, and I have the action noted that I'll start a thread on the mailing list about how to talk about burnout. Just because I want to, with respect to time, and I don't know if Nikki has to jump off soon, I just want to go straight into do the open demographics follow-up. Maybe just any updates from that meeting. I don't know if Matt or Nikki or Georg, one of y'all want to take this.
Go ahead, Matt.
Got it. So if you recall, in the D&I working group, one of the things that we had talked about was making sure that the work that Nikki and others had done in the open demographics repository was maintained, because there's a lot of value in that work, and we just wanted to make sure that it was maintained and had a good future orientation. And so out of this group, we had, if you recall, proposed to post an issue to potentially fork it. And Nikki chimed in and said, let's have a talk about that, which was great. And so Georg and Nikki and I talked just about the repository and the work that's done there. So kind of skipping to the end a little bit, and Nikki and Georg, you can tell me if I misinterpreted it, but the idea is to include people with an interest as maintainers in the repository to help foster the work along and just be attentive to the questions and comments that are coming into the repository. The repository will stay where it's at, and in the CHAOSS project, as we refer to it, we'll just continue to refer to the open demographics work in the, I think it's Dr. Nikki repository. I kind of forget the org, but I think that's it. And then the meeting too was just to make sure that when we add maintainers that are coming from the CHAOSS project to this repository, that we don't change the direction is not quite the right word, but is philosophy the right word? Change the nature of what you're trying to maintain in starting this work originally and having this work be where it's at today. So making sure that we're staying true to that.
I think that's right. And Matt, I just added you as a maintainer. As soon as you said that, I was like, I knew I forgot to do something. So you're there. It's awaiting a response. And then, Garrick, I'm happy to add you, and then we can like go from there. And I think one of the things that I just want to make super clear. Sorry, someone is banging on my door. One of the things that I just want to make clear is that like I'm super not trying to like maintain control over it, but trying to just keep it organization agnostic. So it's not that I want to keep it mine. It's just that like there's a reason it didn't become Drupals, even though I was deeply embedded in the Drupal community at the time. Those community politics are just really tough. And so it's not that I'm better or that I think I know what's best for it. It's just that I'm not a big corporate organization. So for all I care, we could move it into it could move out of my own GitHub profile and into one just called Open Demographics and be itself there. I'm fine with that being the case too. So it's not that I needed to stay associated with me per se, as it is just trying to keep it away from the big corporate overlords, even if those are universities. So
there's truth to that. We're super happy that this is starting and this is happening. So this is totally
me
cool.
too. And I'm super happy for help and more smart brains thinking about it with me.
Right on.
Awesome. So maybe one of the open questions might be if we want to talk about that now, or we can push, but maybe just about what those logistics would look like, or we want to start thinking about how can we bring people from the CHAOSS side of things to participate in that? Is there like a call to action that we could try to take from this?
I think one of the things that I'd be happy to think about with you either now or next meeting, I don't know what else is on the agenda, is maybe making a list of action items for folks to jump in on rather than saying like, let's all start from a blank slate and try and invent the wheel. We have a bunch of stuff that Matt and Garrick and I talked about just need to happen no matter what, right? The docs need to be cleaned up. We need a better onboarding process. We need ways to contribute that aren't so, right? Like good first issue labels that aren't so tech and so require so much social and technical capital. So I'm happy to go through and like collaborate on making a list of those and getting like a good issue template put together. So things like that just are ready to go. And then maybe from there, and that'll buy us a couple months anyway. And then from there, figure out what the next best steps seem like.
Awesome.
Maybe I could open an issue, Nikki, to just in the repo, and we could start capturing kind of this to-do list of things that we can work off of.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, cool.
And just with mine too, that Hacktoberfest is coming up in a month too. So if we did get some of those good first issues up, there's actually a chance that maybe we could try to get some new folks who are interested in this stuff to help out and check it out too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the other thing that I want to float now that I'm thinking about Hacktober and opening it up to general contributions is taking another look at the contributor agreements and repo codes of conduct. I'm in my memory they're in there, but I think it's always worth taking another look at them as tides change.
Definitely. Cool. So I think then we'll go with the issue then to push the conversation forward there. So I think Matt G, are you going to take that one? Cool. So with that, I think we can jump to I think it's badging. I'm trying to find the tab now. Where is it? Yeah, with badging. So Matt Snell, do you want to give a quick update there? Anything that we can help out with on the badging front?
Yeah. So our launch is coming up September 14th. And we're always looking, I'm actually going to ask for two things today. We're looking for people to scrutinize our organization and find anything that might be wrong or dead links or anything like that if you ever want to. That's always kind of an open thing that you can always do. And the other one is we're looking for badging reviewers. So I want to give a little more detail here. So we have an application process that people put in information about an event at this point. We have events for virtual and in-person events, applications for both of those. And we're always glad to take in new people that would like to help review those applications and say on a specific checklist, kind of go through and talk and kind of like see how their D&I practices are going in that event based on what they have said and what their website says and everything like that. So we've got a good crop of reviewers already, but our goal is to have 10 by the launch. And we're looking forward to hopefully hearing from any of you about that. And we have some emails up there, and we also have a repository that you're free to open an issue on as well. We'll also be sending out some messages to try to get more reviewers as well, but well, it's glad to have any of you on there too. And you probably get a head start on getting that application anyway to become a reviewer.
I like to think of it as like the App Store reviews of diversity at events. So awesome. Thanks, Matt. So
I will just say, I really do second this. We do need, with the badging program, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, the idea is that as the D&I metrics are being put forward, so things about like event code of conduct, event family friendliness, attention to speaker demographics, attention to attendee demographics, diversity access tickets. The idea is that we're just simply asking events, are you attending to these things when you are putting together an event? Are you attending to family friendliness? Are you attending to diversity access tickets? Are you attending to speaker demographics? And events would apply for a badge by saying, yes, we're attending to these particular metrics. Again, we're value free. We're not saying good or bad. And the review process is just kind of, it's an open and transparent review process where an event says that they have a code of conduct and they have a way to report issues, and there's an enforcement policy with the code of conduct. The reviewer simply tries to ensure that is the case, and it's publicly available for attendees. And so as part of the badging process, it's that an event demonstrates that they are being attentive to these particular issues. And so from a review perspective, we just need people to really review to make sure that the claims of an event are indeed true. And comments are welcome on that. So I just was giving some background as to what this badging program is about.
And I see, I just dropped it in the Zoom chat too. If you want to ask some questions or get involved, you can email Asta and Matt. Their emails are in the chat, also in the meeting minutes. And you can also find the GitHub repository where all the action is happening in the chat as well. So anything else we want to cover on badging before we jump to last couple topics?
I had one last thing to say. As part of the review process too, the intention is to help events. So if they haven't thought about, say, diversity access tickets, it's part of the review process to maybe point them to other events that attend to diversity access tickets and talk through ways that the event could provide them for attendees. So it's meant to be, the review is also meant to be a constructive process so that events are improving the ways that they attend to D&I.
Yeah, I would just add that I'm really appreciative of all of you for the things you've put into the badging program. I think almost everybody, or just about everybody here, has contributed something to it. So thank you.
Awesome. Great, thanks. So with that, I see Georg had a quick update about state of the source, and Ruth too. Georg, do you want to start, and then Ruth, you can follow?
It was more of a note that I won't be here because I'm giving a presentation at State of the Source, and I'll be at the conference next week.
What are you talking about?
Presentation itself is about metrics. Metrics about in open source and what we've learned from the CHAOSS project. So I'll talk about what is community health and Why do we all care about this? Where do we, if we want to understand community health more, practically, not just in doing some crystal ball looking, then we need metrics, and the metrics that we're developing in CHAOSS, this is where we all build out the language together, and that we are building out the metrics for one, have a shared language. We're building out the tools, the software, so that we can all be faster in getting metrics. And we are also building out best practices around how do we actually go about in our communities measuring, managing the data. Diversity and inclusion, I know, is a big topic as well. So yeah, the talk is about all of those things and lessons learned for someone who wants to start a metric journey, from start collecting everything to you need a strategy. There's so much data about open source communities. It's opening a fire hose of data. So you need to have a good strategy and how to go about doing that. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a link to the specific talk. I just have that link to the schedule. Sorry.
No problem. So cool. If you want to drop maybe the date, time in the chat too, I guess, is it at the same time as this meeting, or is it like that just the hour before?
It's later. I also have a podcast recording that overlaps with this meeting on Wednesday.
Gotcha. No problem. Cool. So we can also maybe do a little bit of double dipping next week. I'll try to see if I can make it.
Cool.
Cool. And then Ruth, did you want to give a quick shout out to your lightning talk?
Yeah, sure. So I'll be talking about a beginner inclusive approach to open source. So coming from a biology background, it was pretty hard for me to get into open source, like the courage to contribute. I was always feeling I wasn't technical enough, or I didn't have any idea. So I'm pretty going to be like sharing my experience on how I have been able to contribute and the lapses I have noticed, and how we can make it better as open source contributors and maintainers to beginners, to include them in our processes. Yeah, so that's pretty it. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And do you know which day and time the lightning talk is? I think it's the conference is 2 days, right?
On 11th. The conference starts on the 10th, but my own talk is 11th, but I've kind of forgotten the time zone, but for my time zone is 1 p.m. For West African time is 1 p.m. my time. So I think I'll check it and just drop it in chat.
Awesome. That'd be great. Cool.
You're going to do great, Ruth.
Thanks.
You're going to be awesome.
+1. All right, so anything else on State of the Source, or any other last minute agenda items before we talk about next week's facilitator? Going once, going twice, sold. All right,
you got
so
it.
For next week, so does anyone want to, so this was my first time facilitating, and this was fun because I made mistakes and I learned some things about how to, it was a fun experience. So, it's not that bad. It's my first time. Other people, chairing's not too hard. So does anyone else want to volunteer?
You did great. There was nothing wrong with how you did this today. And just to give a little background too, we started this rotation of facilitators because it's good to get people involved, to have a rotating responsibilities, so it's not one person who is bearing the burden all the time. And as we are talking about diversity and inclusion, this is one measure that we are implementing to be more diverse and inclusive in how we manage ourselves.
So the agenda doc will be, there'll be a template there. You can just type into it. You can copy and paste in the last 10 minutes before the meeting starts, like I did. It'll be okay. You can do it. I could probably do it another couple weeks, but I won't be able to do it next week. So I'll have to pass it on for next week.
I'm not here.
Could follow up with Matt G if there's not any takers right now, or we could put it out. Actually, I could also, since I'm already going to post a mailing list thread, I could make an open call on the mailing list if anyone wants to volunteer and facilitate. So no one has to be on the spot right now, take that commitment too. So I'll I'll do 2 threads.
Or we cancel next week if no one is here for the meeting anyway, because we all have commitments. We don't have to meet.
I haven't looked at the State of the Source schedule, but I'll know I'm probably going to be tied up with that too. So that's probably where I'll be next week.
Cancel.
Okay. So in that case, then we'll push to another 2 weeks, and then I'll still open a thread to see if anyone wants to volunteer to facilitate, and we'll go from there. Cool. But that's all from me. That's all on the agenda. So I think we're right on time. Cool. So enjoy the rest of your 10 minutes of your hour, and we'll catch up in a couple weeks, and we'll probably see some of you at State of the Source. So see you soon.
Take care all.
Oh,
Everyone, thanks for having me.
by the way, Elizabeth, you asked last time that you wanted to see the cat when we. So this is the
stop the
kitten.
recording. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, Gary.
Yeah.